Hello world, and welcome to Passion Corners. In this video, we will explore the fundamental of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and this is what we're going to be building. A landing page to help raise awareness and prevention for COVID-19. We will be taking the mobile-first approach to make sure every part of this project will be responsive. There are 7 main sections and I will be walking you through each one of them. In addition, all source code are available in a GitHub repository to help you code along easily. I hope that you're excited to get started, and I'll see you in VS Code. Alright, the first thing we want to do is create a project folder. I have mine right here and named it COVID_LP. LP stands for landing page. Once you have your project folder, drag that into VS Code. Now what we want to do is set up our project. So first, let's create a index.html file. And after this, let's create 3 new folders. The first one being CSS. This will hold our style sheet. And inside this folder, let's create our style sheet and name it main.css. The next folder will be our JS folder, which will hold our JavaScript file. So let's call it main.js. And the last folder will be our img folder, which will hold all of our images. Now we have our folders and files. Let's link them all up. So in index.html, if you are using VS Code, let's type doc and then tab. This will create a boiler snippet for us. Let's navigate to the title and let's say COVID landing page. On top of the title, let's create our link tag. So let's say link and then tab. In the href attribute, let's look inside our CSS folder and then select our main.css file. Next, we want to link up our JavaScript file. So in the body tag, let's say script, tab, and then in our script tag, we want to say src. And we want to look inside our JavaScript folder for a file called main.js. Let's give this a quick save. Alright, there is one more housekeeping item that I want to go over, and that is the 2 VS Code plugins that I'm using for the current workflow. So if I navigate to my extension, the first plugin is called Live Server. And it is this one right here. So this will update our changes without the need for us to refresh our browser. And the next extension that I'm using is called Prettier. And it is this one right here. This will auto indent and format our code and make it look pretty. Alright, let's use our Live Server extension. So in the index.html file, we can right click and then select open with Live Server, or we can use the shortcut of Command LO. So Command LO. Alright, our Live Server is now active and we will see our changes on the fly once we make any edit. And the next approach we are taking on this project will be the mobile first approach, meaning we will focus on the mobile screen first and then build up to the desktop size. So what I like to do is open a browser within VS Code, and let me show you how to do that. So let's navigate back to our VS Code and then press Shift Command P and search for something called Symbol Browser. It is this one right here. Press enter. And then we want to navigate to our live server URL, and that's http://localhost. And the port is right here. Currently it is 5500. It might be different for yours. So for mine is 5500. Press enter. And now we have a browser within our VS Code. And the next thing I like to do is split screen this. So Command quote. Or you can press this icon right here. Next, we want to drag the browser over to the right side and then resize it to a mobile size. So about right here is good. So now we will see all the changes for our mobile view and our desktop view on the fly, and this complete our setup. So before we start building, let's take a closer look at the design, and the design is provided in the description of this video where you can download it as a Figma file. So I will open up Figma. And here is our design. Let's make some mental note of it. So here's our header. And then we have our first section, which is our banner. It is a 2 columns layout. Here is the text on the left and then our image on the right. Next, we have the what is section. And it is also a 2 columns layout. So image and then text. follow this is our Contagion section, and we'll consider this as a one column layout where we have our heading and then this section containing 3 cars. And now we have our symptoms section, and let's also consider this as a one column layout. Let's scroll down and we have our what should we do section, and this will be a 2 columns layout. And then we have our contact section, which contain our form, and then finally our footer. So the next thing we want to do is apply some base style, and we want to start with the font. So if we focus on this text right here, we can see the font family is Gillian, and currently there is not a free license to use for Gillian, so therefore we will find the closest match for it, and that will be Domini by Google Font. Also, if we focus on this logo and then the text, we can see the font family is Red Hat Display, and that is also available in Google Font. So let's navigate to Google Font. So new tab, Google Font. The first font we want to search for is Domini. So this one, we will select the regular and then the bold. Let's go back and now let's search for Red Hat. So Red Hat, and we just need the bold. And now let's copy the link, navigate back to VS Code. So before we paste the font in, let's write a comment and say main style. So the bottom line will be our main style, and then we want to say font up here and then paste in our link. Let's give this a quick save. The next thing we want to do is define some global style. So let's navigate to our main CSS file and let's say global and comment that line out. First, we want to remove all default spacing. So let's say asterisk. Asterisk will select all the elements inside the index.html file. And then we also want to select the pseudo class of before and after. So asterisk before and then asterisk after. We want to remove all the margin and then all the padding. And then we also want to say box sizing will be border box. After this, we want to target our HTML tag and set the scroll behavior to be smooth. So when the user click on the navigation link, it will take them to that section, and then we will have a smooth scrolling behavior instead of an abrupt change. All right, next we want to target our image tag and give it a max width of 100%, also a width of 100%. So this will make sure all of our images will be responsive. Next, we want to define a container and give it a max width of 1920 pixel, a width of 100%. The margin will be 0 auto. And then we also want to define our wrapper. Its max width will be 1440 pixel, width of 100%, and then also margin 0 auto. So here, let me zoom out really quick. This is our container, and this is our wrapper. All right, so the next thing we want to do is get our colors, and we will store this in a variable so we don't have to remember the hex code, and all we have to do is remember the variable names that we define it to be. And the first color will be our orange right here. So let's copy this color back into VS Code. And the way we define a variable is by saying :root. I will scroll up a little bit. And then we have to say hyphen hyphen and then the variable name. So let's say orange will be this color. And then our next color will be green. So let's go back to Figma. Let's focus on this color. Our next color will be gray. So back into Figma, and it will be this color right here. Our next color will be pink. And let's get this color right here. So as you can see, this color is the same as this color, but the opacity is just set to 15%. So I will create a box and then fill it with this color so we can get the actual hex code. Now let's navigate back to VS Code and paste in our color. Our next color will be a light pink, and it will be this color right here. So I will do the same thing. Use this tool and then get this color, and this is the hex code. Let's paste it in. Next, we want to define a smooth variable. So this will make all of our transition to be smooth, like our hover state or the transition of our mobile menu. So let's say all 0.3 second ease in. And after this, we also want to define a variable of shadow. And this will give us a box shadow for our buttons, so our button doesn't look so flat. And we can also use it for our cards in the Contagion section. So let's say 0.7 pixel, 29 pixel, 0, and an RGBA color of 100, 100, 111, and the alpha level will be 0.2. And this will complete our global style. Let's give it a quick save. And we are set to start building, and we want to start with our header. So let's navigate to our index.html file. Now let's navigate to our body tag, and we want to say header and comment out that line. Next, we want a header tag with a class name of container, and to do that, let's say .container and then press tab. This will create a header tag for us with a class name of container, and inside header we want a div and use our wrapper class. So let's say .wrapper, and this will create the div for us. And now inside our wrapper, let's create a nav tag with a class name of navbar. And the structure of our navbar begin with the logo, and then our links, and then icon. So icon will be our mobile menu icon. So first to the logo, let's have a div with a class name of navbar __ logo. Inside that, we will have a image tag, and we want to look inside our img folder for a file called logo.png, and then our alt tag, let's say logo. So now in Figma, let me zoom in a little bit. I have already exported out all these images, like this one and this one, and they are available in the project repository on GitHub. So if you navigate there, you can get all the images file, but I do want to quickly show you how I exported them out. So if we focus on this image and then scroll down here, first we can select what kind of image it will export out to be, like JPG or SVG, and then all we have to do is click this button to export out the image. All right, back into VS Code. So after our image tag, we want a paragraph tag, and inside that we want to say COVID-19 and then press tab. This will create our paragraph tag. Now let's work on our links. Let's have an unordered list. So UL with a class name of navbar __ links. And inside that we want our list items. So our li tag with a class name of navbar __ link singular. And then inside our li tag, we want our anchor tag, so greater than symbol A, and we want our link to say overview. Press tab, and this will create our li and our a tag. For the href, let's say hashtag banner. So when our user click on overview, the page will transition them to the banner section. Next, let's duplicate this line 3 times. So shift option arrow down. And our second link will be Contagion. Also, our href will be Contagion. Next, we will have our symptoms section. And then also symptoms over here. After this is our prevention section. So prevention is our what should we do section. So here banner, let's say to do. Next we want our contact button. So let's have our anchor tag, and inside that we want our button tag with a class name of navbar underscore underscore btn. And then we want the button to say contact. For the href, let's say hashtag contact. All right, now to our icon, let's have a div with a class name of navbar underscore underscore ham. Ham stands for hamburger. And then inside that, we want another div with a class name of navbar underscore underscore icon. And we only want one element because we will use the pseudo class of before and after to create our 3 bars icon. All right, let's give this a quick save. And currently this is what our headers look like. Now let's navigate to our main CSS file and start styling our header. So first let's copy this comment line and then paste it down here. Change global into header. So now we want to target our header tag and give it a background color of light pink. So we want to use our variable, and the way we do that is by saying var parenthesis hyphen hyphen and then our variable name, which is light pink. Give this a quick save, and as you can see, there's a subtle change right here. All right, now we want to target our navbar. We want to give it a display of flex and then justify content space between. So we want our logo to be positioned right here, and then our menu icon to be over here, and that's why we use space between. Next, we want to align item center everything, and then we want a padding of 25 pixel top, 15 pixel right, 55 pixel bottom, and then 15 pixel left. Then we also want to give it a background color of light pink, so var light pink. Next, let's target our logo. So navbar underscore underscore logo. Let's also give it a display of flex and then align item center. Next, we want to target the image itself. So navbar logo and then the image tag. Let's give it a width of 63 pixel and give it a quick save. Now our header looks a little bit better. Next, we want to target the logo text. So logo paragraph tag. First, we want to give it a font family of Red Hat display. And then also a fallback font of serif. Our font size will be 1.125 rem. And in this project, we will define all of our font size with the unit of rem. And we want to do this because if there's a user that set their browser font size to be a specific size, we don't want to overwrite that. And by using rem, this will prevent that to happen. All right, next we want to say text transform to be uppercase. Our text color will be green. And then we want to give a margin left of 14 pixel. Let's give that a quick save. And here's our logo. Now let's work on our menu. So let's say menu. And then target our navbar underscore underscore links. Let's give it a position of fix. So we want our menu to be sticky on the side right here. And that's why we gave it a position of fix. Next, we want to say top 0. Left is also going to be 0. And the width will be 60%. So our menu will be about this big. After this, we want to define the height to be 100%. And then we want to translate our menu all the way to the left. So negative 100%. And now if we give this a quick save, our menu has transitioned all the way to the left by 100%. And by default, we want to do that. So when we style our menu icon, it will appear here. And when the user click on that menu icon, our menu will transition back into view right here. All right, let's comment this line out because we still need to style our menu. Next, we want a background color of orange. So var orange. After this, we want to set its opacity to be 0. So this will give our menu a fade effect once it's transitioned in and out. We also want to comment this line out for now. Next, we want to set the Z index to be 5 and give it a transition of smooth. So var smooth. After this, we want to target the individual link. So navbar underscore link, and we want to set its font size to be 1.125 rem. So the way we calculate rem is whatever the font size pixel is. Let's say if it's 24 pixel, we will divide that by 16, and 16 is the default number set by the browser. So if we want our font size to be 24 pixel and convert that to rem, we take 24 divided by 16, and that will come out to be 1.5 rem. So for our case, our font size is 1.125 rem. That means we want to define our font pixel to be 18 pixel, because 18 divided by 16 will be 1.125. All right, cool. So next we want to give a margin of 55 pixel all around, and then remove the bullet list. So let's say list style to be none. Let's give that a quick save. And here is our menu for now. Let's now target the A tag. So navbar underscore link, and then our A tag. First, we want to give it a font family of Domini, and then a fallback font of serif. We want to set the text color to be white, and then a text decoration of none to remove the underline. Next, we want to say text transform to be capitalized, because we want to capitalize the first letter. And then finally, we want a transition of smooth. So this will help our hover state to be smooth. Now let's set up our hover state. So navbar underscore link A :hover. I will scroll up a little bit. And then we want to set the color to be green. So var green, and also a transition of smooth. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our hover state. Now let's work on our contact button. And before we do that, let's jump into the design. So as you can see in the design, there are different variations of the button. So this one, and this one. And let's unify all of our button to be one style. And if we do this, then we will only have to define our button style one time and then reuse the code again. So now the only difference with these buttons will be its size. And when we need to create a new button, we don't have to define the style again. All we have to do is define its size. All right, let me show you what I mean. So in VS Code, let's define a global button. So let's scroll to our global section. So on top of root, let's target our button tag. First, we want to set the font family to be Domini, and then a fallback font of serif. After this, we want a font weight of bold, and then text transform it to be uppercase. Our text color will be white. Our background color will be orange. So var orange, and then a padding of 1em top and bottom, and then 2em of left and right. And the reason that we use padding with the unit of em is because when we use em, the padding will be relative to the button font size. As mentioned earlier, the main differences now between these buttons will be its size. So now if we want to create this button, all we have to do is define its font size. Then the CSS will create this button with the correct size for us when we use padding of em. All right, let's finish styling our button. Then I'm sure you will see this more clearer. So after padding, let's give it a border of none, and then a border radius of 100 pixel. So this will create a round button for us. After this, we want to set the cursor to be pointer, and then we want to use a box shadow, and then our shadow variables. So now a button won't appear to be flat. And then finally, we also want to give it a transition of smooth for our hover state. Now let's define our hover state. So button :hover. When we hover, let's change the text color from white to orange. And then our background color will be the light pink. And then finally, we also want to give it a transition of smooth. Now let's scroll down to our header section. And then we want to target our button. So navbar underscore underscore btn. Let's define its font size. So font size will be 1.125 rem. And we want to give it a margin left of 35 pixel. So we want to push the button to be right here to align with everything else. And for this button, it will have a border. So let's say border 2 pixels solid, and we want to give it a pink border. Now let's give this a quick save. And here's our button. All right, now let's work on our icon. So icon, first let's target the parent element. So navbar underscore underscore home. Let's give it a display of flex. Justify content will be center. And then also align item center. We're gonna give it a width of 80 pixel. Also a height of 80 pixel. The cursor will be pointer. A transition of smooth. And then we want to set the Z index to be 6. We want our icon to be on top of everything. Now let's create our icon bar. So navbar underscore underscore icon. Let's give it a width of 45 pixel, a height of 6 pixel, a background color of orange, a border radius of 5 pixel, and also a transition of smooth. Give that a quick save, and we have our first bar. Now let's create the other two, and then we want to use a pseudo class for that. So navbar underscore underscore icon before, and then also navbar underscore underscore icon after. So when we use the pseudo class, we have to define the content property. So let's say content, and just set that to be an empty string. After this, we want to give it a position of absolute. So up here, I forgot, we need to set this to be position relative because we want the other two bars to be relative to this middle bar. All right, after this, everything else will be the same. So let's copy these lines and then paste it down here. Let's give it a quick save. And currently we will not see it because all of them are stacked on top of each other. So let's fix that really quick. And we want to target the first bar. So let's target the before bar. So navbar underscore underscore icon before. And let's give it a transform of translate Y to be a negative 12 pixel. Give that a quick save. And here is our second bar. Now let's work on our third bar. So navbar underscore underscore icon after. Let's give it a transform of translate Y, and this time it will be 12 pixel. Let's give that a quick save. And here is our 3 bars icon. After this, we want to set up the animation for our icon. So when our user click the icon, we want to transform the icon into an X. So in our CSS, let's say icon animation, and we want to give it an open class. So the idea is when the user click on this icon, we want to use JavaScript to toggle this open class in our CSS. So after open, let's say navbar underscore underscore icon, and this will target our middle bar, and we want to give it a transform of translate X and set it to be a negative 50 pixel. And now we want to set the background to be transparent. So the idea is when the user click on the menu icon, the middle bar will transition out to the left, and then it will fade out to be transparent. Now let's target our top bar. So let's say open navbar underscore underscore icon before. And we want to say transform and then rotate it 45 degree. We also want to say translate to be 35 pixel and then negative 35 pixel. Now let's target our bottom bar. So open navbar underscore underscore icon after, transform rotate, and this time it will be a negative 45 degree. And the translate will be 35 pixel, 35 pixel. Let's give this a quick save and navigate to our main.js file. The first thing we want to do is target our icon button. So let's say cons button document.query selector, and we gave our button a class name of navbar underscore underscore ham. Now that we have our button, let's add a event listener to it. So let's say button add event listener, and the event will be a click event. So when the user click on this button, we want to run a function, and let's set it to be an arrow function. And what we want to do is toggle the button to have the class name of open. So class list toggle and then open. Give that a quick save. And now if we click on our icon, here's the transformation. Now let's work on our menu transition. So first let's target it. So cons menu document.query selector, and our menu have a class name of navbar underscore underscore links. And then in our function, we want our menu to toggle the class of navbar underscore underscore open. Let's give this a quick save and then navigate to our main CSS. Let's scroll up to our menu. So right here, let's save navbar underscore underscore links and then dot navbar underscore underscore open. We want to set the transform translate back to its original position, which is 0, and then set the opacity to be 1. And finally, the transition will be a smooth transition. Now let's go up here and uncomment this line, and then also this line. Give it a quick save, and let's test out our menu. So if we click on our menu icon, our menu will show. All right, now we have complete our mobile view. Now let's work on our desktop view. So let's check out the desktop view right now. And here is our desktop view. So what we want to do is hide this menu icon and then show our links right here. So back into VS Code, let's scroll all the way down. And then let's use our media query. So add media, and we want to define a screen size. So let's say min width, and then we want to say 62M. And the reason we want to use M here is because all browsers are not the same. So let's say a user is on Safari, and when they resize their browser, it's gonna be different for a user that are using Chrome or Firefox. So to keep everything consistent, it's best that we use M in our media query. And then for min width, is we saying any screen size that is greater than 62M, do this. And what we want to do is target our navbar links. So navbar links, and we want to reposition it back to its initial position. And we also want to say transform translate X back to its original position, which is 0. And of course, the opacity will be 1. Our background color now will be a light pink. Next, we will give it a display of flex, and then justify content will be flex end, because we want to push the links all the way to the right. And then finally, align item center it. After this, we want to target the individual link. So let's say navbar underscore underscore link. Let's give it a margin of 0 top and bottom, and then 25 pixel left and right. So there will be some spacing between the links. So navbar underscore underscore link, and then our A tag. We want to set the color to be green. And then also set its hover state. So colon hover, and the color we want it to change to will be orange. Now let's target the contact button. So navbar underscore underscore btn. We want to remove the margin left, and then set the border to be none. Now to our menu icon. So navbar underscore underscore ham, and just set that to be display of none. Alright, before we save, I will scroll up to the global button. I believe I spelled the word orange wrong right here. Alright, now let's give it a quick save and check out our desktop view. And here is our header. for desktop. And now our header is complete. Let's move on to our next section, which is the banner. So back into VS Code. All right, now to our index.html. Let's collapse the header tag right here. So Option Command bracket right will collapse this line for us. So now here, let's say banner. And we want a section with an ID of banner. Inside that, we want our container. And now before we go any further, let's revisit our design. So we will have our description and then the image. All right, let's go back to VS Code. So inside our container, let's start with our image first. So let's have a div with a class name of banner underscore underscore img. And then inside we want our image tag. Look inside our image folder for an image called banner.png. And then for the alt, let's say girl sitting on couch illustration. After this, we want to work on the description. So let's say banner underscore underscore desk. And then first we will have our tag. So let's have an h4 with a class name of banner underscore underscore tag. And then we will have our title. So an h1 with a class name of banner underscore underscore title. And then we will have our detail. So let's say a paragraph tag with a class name of banner underscore underscore detail. And then finally, after this, there will be a button. So let's have a div with a class name of banner underscore underscore btn. And inside that, we want our anchor tag. And then inside that, we want our button tag. And then the button will say, let us help. For the href, let's say hashtag contact. So the page will transition our user down to the contact section. All right, let's fill out our description. So for the tag, let's say COVID-19 alert. Our title will say stay at home, quarantine to stop coronavirus. Now let's navigate to Figma and copy this sentence. Let's paste here in our detail. And we want to fix this spacing right here. Give this a quick save. And here's our banner. Now let's style it. So navigate to our main CSS file. Let's scroll up and get this comment line right here. And then scroll all the way down. Let's paste this here. And then we want to say banner. First, let's target the banner container. So ID of banner and then container. And I want to show you the design file. If we look closely, there's a gradient of light pink and then it fade down all the way to white. So we can do that by using background image. So back into VS Code, let's say background image. And we want to use a property called linear gradient. And we want to say to bottom. So it will fade from top to bottom. And then our top color will be the light pink. And then it will fade down to white. So let's give this a quick save. And it's a very subtle change, but it is there. So this is our light pink and it will fade down to white. Next, let's target our description. So banner underscore underscore desk. And we want to give it a display of flex. The flex direction will be column. So we want everything to be vertically stacked on top of each other. After this, let's say text align will be center. And then we want to give a padding of 0 top and bottom and then 10 pixel left and right. Because in mobile view, we don't want it to be flush all the way to the side like this. So let's give this a quick save. And as you can see, now we have this padding on the left and on the right. All right, now let's target our banner tag. So let's say banner underscore underscore tag. We want a font size of 1.375 rem. Our font weight will be bold. Our font family will be Red Hat display. and then a fallback of serif. Next, our text color will be orange. And then we want to say text transform to be uppercase. After this, we want a padding of 5 pixel top and bottom to give some spacing here and then here. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here's our tag. Next, let's work on our title. So banner title, our font size will be 2.625 rem. Our font weight will be bold. And then the font family will be Red Hat display again. With a fallback of serif. The text color will be green. And the text transform will be uppercase. And we also want to give it a padding of 5 pixel top and bottom and then 0 left and right. Give this a quick save. And here is our title. Next, let's work on our detail. So banner detail. Our font size will be 1.5 rem. Our font family will be Domini. The text color will be gray. We want the text transform to be capitalized. And then a margin top of 25 pixel. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our paragraph tag. Now let's work on the button. So let's say banner BTN. We want to give it a margin top of 54 pixel. And the way I got the spacing is in the design file. So in Figma, if we highlight the button and then the paragraph tag and then this line right here, it will tell you the exact spacing pixel. So that is how I got 54 pixel. So back into VS Code. Next, we want to target the actual button. So banner, BTN, and then button. We want to set its font size to be 1.5 rem. Let's give that a quick save. And here is our description, our tag, our title, the paragraph tag, and our button. So let's go back to the design file one more time. So as you can see, all of these paragraphs have a line spacing. So right here, and all of these. So let's define that in our global style. So let's scroll up. And then let's put it here on top of root. We want to select all the paragraph tag and give it a line height of 40 pixel. Give this a quick save. And now there's a spacing for our paragraph. So everything looked nice on mobile view. Let's check out our desktop view. And this is what our desktop currently looks like. All right, let's fix that. Back into VS Code. Let's scroll down. And then we want to use our media query. So at media, min width, it's gonna be 62M. We want to target our banner container. Give it a display of flex. Justify content space between. So we want the image to be on the right and the description to be on the left. After this, we want to say align item center. Let's give this a quick save and check out our desktop. So now we're almost there, but now let's position our image to the right. So back into VS Code, let's target our image. So banner IMG, and let's give it an order of 2. And we also want to target our description and give that an order of 1. Next, let's change the text align to be initial. We no longer want it to be center on desktop. And let's give it a width of 60%. And then a padding of top 0, right 0, bottom 0, and then 240 pixel left. This will place our description inside our wrapper. Next, let's target the paragraph tag. So banner detail. And let's give it a max width of 800 pixel and a width of 100%. Let's give it a quick save and check out our desktop. And here's our banner. So this concludes our banner section. Let's move to our next section, which is the what is section. So back into VS Code. All right, now to our index.html file. Let's collapse our section banner. And then down here, let's say what is. Next, let's have a section with an ID of what is. Inside, let's have our container. Now let's look at the design. So we have a 2 columns layout with the image and then the text. Now back to VS Code. Let's work on our image. Let's have a div with a class name of what is _img. And then inside we want our image tag. Look inside our image folder for an image called what is img. And then for the alt, let's say virus illustration. Next, let's work on our description. So a div with a class name of what is __ desk. And there's one more thing I want to show in the design. We have the tag and then the title and then the paragraph detail. So same thing is here, tag, title, detail, and also here, tag, title, detail. So these sections will be the same. Therefore, let's make a global style for it. So back into VS Code. Let's start with our tag. So let's have an ish4 with a class name of section __ tag. Next, we want our title. So an ish3 with a class name of section __ title. After this, our detail. So a paragraph tag with a class name of section __ detail. And then after this, we will have our button. So let's have a div with a class name of what is __ btn. And then inside that, we want our a tag and then our button. And we want our button to say learn more. And then in the href, let's say hashtag symptoms. Now let's fill out our tag. So in the h4, let's say what is COVID-19. And then for our title, it will be coronavirus. Let's navigate to our design to get the paragraph. So right here, let's copy this. And then let's paste it here. Let's give this a quick save. And here is our what is section. Now let's style it. So in our main CSS, let's scroll up to get this comment tag. And then let's paste it here. And then we want to say what is. First, let's target the what is container. So what is container. And we want to give it a position of relative because there will be this decoration right here. And we're going to set though to be position absolute. And then it needs to be relative to something. So we're going to make it relative to the whole container. All right, back in VS Code. Let's work on our description. So what is desk? And we want to say text align to be center. And then a padding of 0 top and bottom. And then 15 pixel left and right. Next, let's scroll up and define our section global class in the global section. So on top of root, let's say section _ tag. We want to set the font size to be 1.75 rem. Our font family will be Red Hat display. And then we want a text transform to be capitalized. After this, the text color will be orange. Next is our section title. We want to set the font size to be 3.125 rem. The font family will also be Red Hat display. Our text transform will also be capitalized. And then our text color will be green. And then finally, we want a margin bottom of 18 pixel to give some spacing right here. All right, next is our section detail. Let's set the font size to be 1.25 rem. And our font family will be Domini. Our text color will be gray. We want to set its max width to be 700 pixel. And then margin 0 auto to center it. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our description. Looks like there's an error here. So let's go back to our index.html. And there's an extra T right here. So let's fix that really quick. And here's our description. All right, now let's work on the button. So let's scroll all the way down. And then we want to target our button. So what is BTN? We want to give it a margin top of 56 pixel. And then target the actual button itself. And set its font size to be 1.25 rem. Now let's give this a quick save. And here's our button. And our mobile is looking good. Let's check out our desktop. All right, let's adjust this. So back into VS Code. We want to get our media query. So add media. And then min width to 62 rem. First, let's target the container. So what is container? Let's give it a display of flex. And then justify content space between. And then after this, align item center. Now let's target our description. So what is desk? We want to set the text align back to initial. And then a padding of 0 top, 240 pixel right, 0 bottom, and then 0 left. After this, let's set its width to be 45%. Give this a quick save and check out our desktop. And then everything is looking good. Next, let's move on to the Contagion section. So back into VS Code, our index.html. Let's collapse this line. Now let's say Contagion. We will give it a section of an ID of Contagion. Inside we want our container and then our wrapper. So let's check the design really quick. We will have our heading, 3 cards, and then a decoration right here. So back in VS Code, let's work on our heading. So let's set a global heading class. So a div with a class name of section __ heading. And then we want our section tag, title, and then detail. So an ish4 with section tag. And then ish3 of section title. And a paragraph tag with section detail. In our tag, it is COVID-19. And then our title will be Contagion. Next, let's go to our design and get the paragraph. So this line. And then we want to paste it here. Now let's work on our cards. So let's have a div with a class name of Contagion __ cards. I will scroll up a little bit. And then inside this, we want our individual card. So let's say card 1. Let's have a div with a class name of Contagion __ card singular. And inside our card, there will be an image. So let's look inside our image folder for an image called Contagion 1. And then for the alt tag, let's say girl coffin illustration. Next, we want to define a title. So let's have an ish2 and then the description. So our paragraph tag. For our title, it is air transmission. Let's navigate to our design and copy this sentence. All right, let's paste it here. And now we want to duplicate this 3 times. So let's copy it from here to here. And now let's say card 2. We want to paste in our clipboard. and then card 3. Give this a quick save. All right, let's style it. So in our CSS file, so first let's define our global section heading class. So let's scroll up here. And then on top of section tag, let's say section __ heading. Let's give it a text align of center and a padding of 0 top and bottom and 15 pixel left and right. Give this a quick save. And here's our heading. And it looks like we need some spacing right here. So let's define a global spacing class and let's call it PT. And we will give it a padding top of 10%. Give this a quick save and then navigate to our index.html. Locate our section tag. So here in the ID, let's also have a class of PT. Give that a quick save. And now we have this top padding right here. Now let's work on our cards. So back in the CSS file, let's scroll down. First, let's get our comment line. So right here, copy and then paste. So this will be Contagion. Next, we want to target the card container. So Contagion __ cards. We want to give it a padding top of 5%. And now we want to target each card. So let's say Contagion __ card. First, let's give it a position of relative, because later on we will have to style this decoration right here. After this, let's give it a max width of 460 pixel and then a width of 90% because we don't want to flush it all the way to the side. Next, let's give it a height of 575 pixel and then a margin of 0 top, auto right, 50 pixel bottom, and then auto left. After this, we will give it a display of flex. Our flex direction will be column. Next, we want to justify content center it. So everything will be aligned in the center. After this, we also want to say align item center. Next, let's give it a box shadow of our shadow variables. And then a border radius of 10 pixel. Our cursor will be pointer. And then the background of the card will be white. After this, we will give it a padding of 0 top and bottom and then 15 pixel left and right. So the content within the card won't be flush on the side. And then finally, we want to give it a transition of smooth. Because when we hover over these cards, there will be an orange line. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here is our card at the moment. Now let's work on the hover state. So Contagion card. And then we want to use the pseudo class before. First, we need to set the content to be empty. And then a position of absolute. After this, we want to say bottom 0 and then left 50%. We will transform this to make it center. So let's say transform, translate. And for the x-axis, it will be a negative 50% and then 0 for the y-axis. After this, we want a width of 100% and a height of 10 pixel. The default state will have a background of transparent. And then when we hover over it, it will show the background of orange. Next, we want to say border and start radius to be 10 pixel. And then border and end radius to be 10 pixel. It will take care of the border radius bottom right here for us. And then finally, we want a transition of smooth. All right, now let's work on the hover. So Contagion card hover before. We want to set our background to be orange. And then a smooth transition. Let's give this a quick save. And then let's check out the hover. So here it is. All right, let's continue styling our card. So now we want to target the image. So let's say Contagion card, and then the image tag. We want to give it a max width of 270 pixel. And then let's target the H2. First, let's give it some spacing up here. So let's say padding top 55 pixel. And then our font size will be 2.25 rem. Our font family will be Domini. And then our fallback will be serif. Our text color will be green. And then we want to give it a text transform of capitalize. And then finally text align at center. Next we want to target the paragraph tag. So Contagion, and then the paragraph tag. Our font family will be Domini. Our font size will be 1.125 rem. Our text color will be our gray. We also want to say text align center. The text transform will also be capitalized. We want to give it a max width of 380 pixel. And then a margin of 0 auto. Next, let's give it a padding top of 13 pixel. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here's our card. So mobile screen looks good. Let's check out our desktop. All right, let's reposition these cards. So back into VS Code. Let's target our media screen. So at media, we want to say min width 62 rem. Let's target our cars class. So Contagion cars. And then we want to give it a display of flex. Justified content will be space between. And then we also want to say flex wrap to be wrapped. Let's give it a quick save. And then to our desktop. And here are our cards. So what flex wrap does, it won't squeeze our card. So when the screen size gets too small, the card will automatically go down to the bottom. I will show you really quick. Like that. All right. Now let's apply our decoration. So back into VS Code. So we will use a pseudo class for this with the background image property. So let's say Contagion card, and let's say before. We want to set the content to be empty. And then a position of absolute. Next, we want to say bottom negative 55%. And then left of negative 9%. Our width will be 100%. Also, the height will also be 100%. Next, we want to use the background image. So let's say URL. And then look inside our image folder for a file called cont.deck. And then we want to say background repeat, no repeat. And then before saving, let's scroll up. And right here, position relative. And we also need to have it here. Now let's give this a quick save and check out our desktop. And here's our decoration and our cards. All right, now let's go back to VS Code. And the next thing we need to do is change the content of these cards. So in card number 2, let's change the image to 2 right here. And let's navigate to Figma and copy this sentence. And then let's paste it here. For the title, it will be human contacts. And then for the alt tag, let's say holding hands illustration. And then down here for our third card, let's change the image. And for the alt tag, let's say cup illustration. Now let's go to Figma and copy this sentence. Let's paste it here. And the title is Contained Objects. Let's give this a quick save and check out our desktop. And here are the new updated cards. So now let's work on our next section, which is symptom. So back into VS Code. Let's go up here. Let's collapse this. Next, let's say symptoms and then comment that out. Next, we want a section with an ID of symptoms and also a class name of PT to give a padding top. Inside our section, we want our container and then our wrapper. Next, we want our section heading and then our section tag. Now our section title. And then finally our section detail. So for our tag, it will be COVID-19. Our title will be symptoms. Now let's navigate to the design file and copy this sentence right here. Let's paste it here. Now let's add our image. So a div with a class name of symptoms underscore img. And inside that, we want our image tag. Look inside our image folder for our image called sim.img. And then for the alt tag, let's say female character illustration. All right, let's give this a quick save and check our mobile view. Here's our symptom section, and then with our image. Let's check out our desktop view, and here it is. And we don't really need to style this section because everything is already set for us. All right, let's work on our next section, which is the what should we do? So back into VS Code. Let's collapse this. And let's name our section to be to do. After this, let's have a section with an ID of to do. And then also a class of PT for our padding top. Inside, we want our container and then our wrapper. Let's first work on our section heading. So section heading and then our tag. And then our title. And then the detail. So our tag will be COVID-19. Our title will be what should you do? Now to our design file. Let's copy this sentence. And then paste it here. After this, let's work on our steps. So let's have a div with a class name of to do underscore steps. And then inside that, we want our individual steps. So let's say step 1. Let's have a div with a class name of to do underscore step singular. And then first we want the description. So let's say to do underscore step hyphen desk. First, let's have a span tag. And this will be for our number. So 01. And then have a div with a class name of ML for margin left. And then inside that, we want an h5 tag. So this will be our first step title. And inside that, we want to say wear mask. After this, we want a paragraph tag. This will be our step detail. Now let's navigate to our design file and copy this paragraph. I will paste it here. Now let's work on our image. So let's say to do stepped -img, and inside that we want our image tag. Look inside our image folder for an image called to do -img1, and then for the alt tag, let's say female character illustration. All right, let's give this a quick save so Prettier will format our code. And we want to copy this line from here all the way to here. So down here, let's say step 2, and then paste in our codes. Next, let's say step 3, and then also paste that in. Give this a quick save. Now let's check out our mobile view. Here's our section heading, and here are our steps. Step 1, 2, 3, and there should be one more step. So right here will be step 4, and paste that in. And here's our step 4. All right, let's style it. So main CSS, let's copy this comment line. Let's scroll down, paste it here. Change this to say to do. First, we want to grab our to do container. So to do container, and we want to give it a position of relative to later on style the decoration. Next, let's target the to do steps. So to do steps, and let's give it a padding top of 5%. So we want the padding right here. All right, now let's target each step. So to do stepped, let's give it a display of flex, and our flex direction will be column. So in mobile, everything will be vertically. All right, now let's style the description. So to do step desk, we want to text align center it, and then a padding of 0 top and bottom, 15 pixel left and right. Next, let's give it an order of 2. So in mobile view, we want the image to be on top, and then our description. And then after this, let's give it a position of relative. Now let's target our span tag, which is our number. So to do step desk span, we want to give it a position of relative also. Our font family will be Red Hat display. Our font size will be 2.5 rem, and then our text color will be orange. Let's give this a quick save. And currently this is what it is. Now let's create the circle background for our numbers. So let's use a pseudo class for that. And we're gonna say to do step desk span before. Let's say the content will be empty. The background color will be pink. The position will be absolute. We want a width of 70 pixel. Also a height of 70 pixel. The Z index will be -1. We want a circle, so let's say border radius will be 50%. Next, let's say transform, and then translate, -12%, and then a -%. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our background. We will center it in a little bit. Now let's target our title. So to do step desk, and then our h5. Let's give it a padding top of 15 pixel, and then our font size will be 2.875 rem. Next, our font family will be Domini. After this, the color will be green. And then we want to say text transform to be capitalized. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our title. Let's work on the detail. So let's say to do step desk, and then our paragraph tag. We want a font size of 1.125 rem. Our font family will also be Domini. And then our text color will be gray. We also want to say text transform capitalize. And then a padding top of 20 pixel. Let's give it a quick save. And here's our detail. All right, now let's target the image. So to do underscore step img. Let's give it a max width of 565 pixel. Let's give it an order of 1. A padding of 15 pixel top and bottom, and then 0 left and right. After this, we want to say text align center. Even though our image is not a text, it will still align our image to the center. Next, let's target our image tag. So to do step img and then our img tag, we want to give it a max width of 565 pixel. Now let's give this a quick save. And here's our mobile view. All right, now let's check out our desktop view. So now we want to display our step in a row. So let's go back to VS Code. Let's target our media query. So at media, let's say min width will be 62 rem. We want to target our to-do step. And we want to change the flex direction to be row instead of column. After this, we want to say justify content space between, and then align item center. Next, we want to target the description. So to do step desk, and let's say display flex. Our flex direction will be row. And then we want to align item center. The text align will be initial instead of center. We will give it a max width of 800 pixel and a width of 100%. And the order will be 1. Next, let's target the image. So to do step img, let's give it an order of 2. Now we want to target the span. So to do step desk and then span, we want to give it a display of flex, and then align items will be baseline. So the number will line up with the title. Next, we want to target our margin left class. So ML, and we want to give it a margin left of 44 pixel. All right, let's give this a quick save and check out our desktop. All right, as you can see, everything looks much better. The next thing we want to do is alternate these. So the second step, the image should be on the left and the text should be on the right. And also our fourth step, we need to alternate it. So let's go back to VS Code. And what we want to do is target the to-do step and use an end child of even. So now all of our even step, we want to flip that. So let's target the to-do desk and let's give it an order of 2. And now let's copy these lines. So if we highlight these lines and press Shift Option arrow down, it will copy the lines for us. And let's change the desk to IMG. And we want to set the image order to be 1. Let's give that a quick save and check out our desktop. And here it is. So this is our step 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's go back to VS Code and then in index.html. Let's change these steps. So step 2 should be 2. And then the title should be wash your hands. Let's copy the detail. So right here, Now let's paste it in. Let's go to our step 3. Back into Figma. Right here. Let's change our detail. And the title is Use Nose Rag. Now to our step 4. Our title is Avoid Contacts. Let's get our detail. Now we also want to change the image. So let's change this to a 4. This to be a 3. And this will be 2. Let's give this a quick save. And here's our new steps. So step 1, wear a mask. Step 2, wash your hands. Step 3, use nose rag. And then our step 4, avoid contacts. So let's fix this issue right here of centering step 1. So let's scroll up to step 1. And in the description, let's give it a class of center. And now to our CSS. Let's locate our span tag. So right here. And let's say center span, and then before we want to say transform, and then translate -18% and then -10%. Give that a quick save and it looked much better. All right, let's check out our desktop. So let's fix this issue right here. Let's back into our code. And then let's copy these lines right here. Navigate down to our media query. Let's paste them here. And we can remove all these lines. And now just remove the minus. Give this a quick save. And check out our desktop. All right. Everything should be set. Next, let's work on our decoration. So back into VS Code. So let's check out Figma. And we have a decoration right here. And also here. So back into VS Code. So let's place it here on top of our wrapper. First, let's have a class of todo_deck. And then this will be our first decoration. Inside, we want our image tag. And then inside our image folder, look for todo deck L for the left side. And then for the alt tag, let's say virus illustration. Next, let's duplicate these lines. And we want to duplicate this 2 times. So shift option arrow down. Let's change this to be 2. And then for the image, it will be RS for right side small. And this to be 3. And then it will be RB for right side big. Let's give that a quick save. So right now it's currently right here. Let's style it. So inside our main CSS. And let's not show it on mobile screen because it will distract the user from the text. So let's hide it in mobile screen and only show it on desktop. All right, so let's navigate up here. So right on top of steps, let's say todo__deck. And let's target the first one. We want to give it a position of absolute. Top 25%. And then left 0. After this, we want to target the image. So todo deck 1 img. We want to give it a width of 138 pixel. And a display of none. Next, let's copy these lines. And let's change this to be a 2. We want to keep the absolute position, but change the top to be 78%. And then our image width right here should be a 2. And the size will be 128. All right, let's paste in our clipboard one more time. Let's change this into a 3. And the top will be 85%. And our image will also be a 3. And it will have a width of 158 pixel. There's one more thing that we need to change, and that's in the deck 2. Instead of left, it should be on the right. Also in our deck 3, right here. Now we want to scroll down into our media query, and let's target the image. So to do deck 1 and then img, let's display it back to initial. And then we want to duplicate this line 2 times. So once again, it is Shift Option arrow down. And then let's change this into a 2. And this into a 3. Give it a quick save and check out our desktop. And here's our decoration. Alright, and that's our to-do section. Let's move forward to our next section, and that's the contact section. So back into VS Code, back in index.html. Let's collapse this. And then say contact. And then we want a section with an ID of contact. Inside that, we want our container. And then also our wrapper. First, we will have our title. So let's say contact __ title. And let's have an h1. So back into our design file. And this will be the title. Let's copy it. Now back into VS Code. Next, we will have our form. So let's have a form tag with a class name of contact __ form. Let's remove the action. And then inside our form, we will have our input. Let's give it a placeholder attribute and say, please enter your email. After this, we want our button. So btn, and we want the button to say send. All right, let's give this a quick save. And into our main CSS. Let's copy the comment line up here. Scroll down. And let's change it to say contact. First, let's style our title. So contact __ title. And let's target the h1. We want a font family of Domini. And then a font size of 2.75 rem. Next, our text color will be green. And then we want to text align center it. After this, we want to say text transform to be capitalized. Let's give it a max width of 720 pixel, a width of 100%, and then also margin 0 auto. Let's give it a quick save and check out our form. Here's our title. Now let's work on our form. So let's say contact __ form. Let's give it a position of relative, because we're gonna put the button inside the input. And now I display a flex. We want our flex direction to be a column in mobile screen. Justify content will be center, and then align item center. Next, let's target the input. So contact form input. And let's give it a font family of Domini. And then the font size will be 1.375 rem. Next, we want to give a margin top of 60 pixel, a max width of 800 pixel, a width of 90%, so it won't be flushed to the side, and then a height of 114 pixel. After this, we want to give it a padding of 15 pixel top, 15 pixel right, 15 pixel bottom, and then 35 pixel left. because we want our placeholder text and the input text itself to have some padding on the left. Next, let's give it a border radius of 200 pixel to make it a round input. And we also want to apply our box shadow of shadow. And then finally, we want the border to be none. After this, let's target the focus state. So contact form input colon focus. And then we want to remove the outline and set it to none. So it will not have this focus right here. All right, now let's target our button. So contact form button. Let's give it a font size of 1.5 rem. And then a margin top of 60 pixel. Give this a quick save. And here's our form and our button. Now let's look at our desktop. Here's our form. Now we want to put this button inside the input. So back to VS Code. We want to target our media query. So add media. And then min width 62 rem. First, let's increase the title a little bit for desktop. So let's say contact title h1 and set its font size to be 3.375 rem. Next, we also have to redefine our form to put our button inside the input. So let's say contact form, and we want to give it a max width of 800 pixel. I will scroll up a little bit. And at a width of 100%, margin will be 0 auto. Now let's target the input. So contact form input, and let's give it a width of 100%. And now our button, so contact form button, let's give it a position of absolute. Top will be 20%, right will be 2%. And then you want to transform, translate it. So translate -2% and then -20%. Let's give this a quick save and check out our desktop. And here's our form. Now let's move on to our final section, which is our footer. So back in VS Code, and then inside index.html, let's collapse this. And now we want to say footer. And then before we move on, let's also give this section a global class of padding top to give some padding right here. All right, now let's press save. And now we have this padding. All right, cool. Now to our footer, let's have our footer tag. And then let's have our container and then our wrapper. Now let's look at Figma. So we will have our top footer and then a bottom footer. So our footer will have our logo, our links, and then our social links. All right, now back to VS Code. Let's work on our footer top. So let's have a div with a class name of footer __ top. The first thing we want is our logo, and then our links, and then our socials. So for the logo, let's copy our header logo. Let's scroll up to a header, uncollapse, and that is Option Command right bracket. All right, let's copy the logo right here and recollapse this. So inside logo, let's paste it here. Now for our links, let's have a UL tag with a class name of footer __ links. And then inside we want our LI tag with a class name of footer __ link singular. And then inside that our anchor tag. And then we want to say overview. The href will be hashtag banner. Now let's duplicate this line 3 times. So once again, shift option arrow down. And then our second link will be contagion. So contagion right here also. Next will be symptoms. and then prevention, which is our to-do. All right, now to our socials. Let's give this a div with a class name of footer underscore underscore social. And the first one we want is Facebook, and then YouTube, and then finally Twitter. All right, for Facebook, let's have an anchor tag and then hashtag in the href. So inside our anchor tag, let's copy the SVG style in the Figma file. So into Figma, let's focus on Facebook. And then you want to right click, copy, and copy as SVG. And we want to do this because there will be a hover state right here. So default, it will be green, and then the hover state will be orange. So copying the SVG style will help us with a hover state. So let's go back to VS Code. Let's paste it here. And there's a trick that we want to do, and that is to remove the fill right here, and then also right here. And we want to wrap the path in a global tag. So let's say G right here, and then also close out the G. Next, inside our G tag, we want to say fill, and that will equal to current color. This will help us to hover later on. All right, now back to Figma. Let's copy YouTube. And then here we want our anchor tag, hashtag, and then paste it in here. Now let's remove the fill here, and then also here. So we want our G tag right here. And then inside that, we want to say fill equal current color. We also want to close out our G tag right here. All right, and then one more. And let's get Twitter. You can also do the Vimeo, but I think 3 icons will also be fine. So let's go back to VS Code. And then Twitter, we want our anchor tag, hashtag, and then paste in our SVG. Remove the fill here. And then also here. Let's have our G tag, and then fill will be current color. And then close out our G tag. Let's give this a quick save so Printer will format our code. Next, let's collapse these lines. So the href for Facebook, and then for YouTube, and then for Twitter. All right, now let's define our footer bottom. So it should be right here. Let's say footer underscore underscore bottom. And inside that, we want a paragraph tag. Let's go back to Figma. And then let's copy this line. And then we want to paste it here. Let's change this symbol to ampersand copy semicolon. Let's give this a quick save and check out our mobile view. And here's our footer. Now let's style our footer. So in main CSS, let's copy our comment line right here. And then let's say footer. So first our footer top. We want a display of flex. The flex direction will be column. And then we want to justify content center everything. and then also align item center. Next, we want a padding of 0 top and bottom, and then 15 pixel left and right. After this, let's target our links. So footer link, and we want to say list style to be none to remove the bullet point. Next, let's say text align will be center, and then a padding of 15 pixel top and bottom, and then 0 left and right. Give this a quick save, and here's our footer. Let's give a padding top right here, and also a padding top right here. So first, into our index.html, let's give our footer a class name of PT, and that will take care of this padding for us. Now we need this padding. So back in our main CSS, let's target the first child of the link. So let's say footer link first child, and then we want to give it a margin top of 20%. Give it a quick save, and now we have this top padding right here. Next, let's style the A tag. So footer link A, we want to give it a font family of Domini and a font size of 1.375 rem. Next, the text decoration will be none to remove the underline, and then a text transform of capitalize. After this, we want our color to be green, and then a transition of smooth for our hover effect. Next, let's define our hover. So footer link A hover. Let's change the text to orange, and then our transition. Give us a quick save, and here's our links. Now let's work on our social icons. So let's say footer social. We want to give it a display of flex, and then align item center, and then a margin top of 10%. After this, we want to target the SVG. So footer social, then SVG. We want to give it a cursor of pointer, a margin top of 0, and then 15 pixel left and right to have some spacing between them. After this, let's set the color to be green. Because we use our global tag trick, now we can define a color for our SVG. And then finally, we also want a transition of smooth for our hover state. Now let's set up our hover state. So footer social SVG hover. We want to change the color to be orange. And then our transition. And my mistake, it should be socials plural instead of singular. And then I also believe I spelled social wrong over here. Yep, I did. So it should have the I first. Give this a save, and now give this a save. So here's our social icons, and when we hover over it, it will have our hover effect. All right, now let's work on our footer bottom. So let's say footer bottom, and then we want to target our paragraph tag and say font family will be Domini. Next, we want a font size of 1.125 rem. I will scroll up a little bit. Next, we want a width of 95%, and then we want to say margin 5% top and bottom, and then auto left and right. After this, let's give it a text align of center, and then our color will be gray. All right, let's give this a quick save. And here's our footer. Now let's check out our desktop. So now let's take care of this. Back into VS Code. Let's target our media query. So add media, and then min width 62 rem. And then we want to say footer top. The flex direction now will be row. And then justify content would be space between. Next, we want to say the footer links. And say display flex. Now we want to target each link. And say margin 0 top and bottom. And 15 pixel left and right. And then we also want to target the first child. So first child. And remove its margin top. And set it back to 0. And then also our footer socials. We also want to remove its margin top. Now let's give this a quick save. And check out our desktop. And here's our footer. So if we click on prevention, it will take us to the to-do section. So same thing if we scroll all the way up top. And then let's click contact. We will be taken down here. Next, there's this one minor detail, and that's in our mobile view. So let's say if we go all the way to the top, and then we open our mobile menu, and let's say the user will click on symptom. It will auto scroll them down here, but then they have no option to close the menu. So what we want to do is create an overlay right here. So even though the user don't have the menu icon, they can click on that overlay and the mobile menu will close. All right, but first let's give it a reload so our menu will close. Now let's jump into our .html file. Let's collapse our footer and then scroll up to our header. So on top of our header, let's say overlay. And we want a section with an ID of overlay. Let's give this a quick save. And then into our main CSS. Let's style it in our header section. So let's put it right here. Let's say ID of overlay. We want to give it a position of fixed. Top 0, left 0. Height will be 100 view height. And the width will be 100 view width. The background will be RGBA. And we want black, so 0, 0, 0, and an alpha level of 0.4. Next, let's set the Z index to be 4. So let's give it a quick save. And this is our overlay. So by default, we want to hide it. So let's say display none. And what we want to do is use JavaScript. So essentially the same thing that we do for our menu. We want to toggle a show class. So let's define that class. And say overlay dot show, and we want it to display initial. Let's give this a quick save and navigate to our JS file. First, let's target our overlay. So cons overlay document dot query selector, and then we want to target the ID of overlay. Next, let's create an event listener for our overlay. So let's say overlay dot add event listener. And once again, it will be a click event that will fire our arrow function. And then we want to say overlay class list. And then we want to toggle the show class. We also want to toggle our button and the menu. So let's say button class list toggle open. And then our menu class list toggle navbar open. Now we also need to navigate to the button add event listener and say overlay class list toggle the show class. Let's give this a save and check it out. So when we open our menu, here's our overlay. And then when we click on a link, and to close the menu, all the user have to do is just click on the overlay and it will close. And all right, here's our final project. Everything is responsive on mobile view. And then also in our desktop. And this will wrap up our tutorial, and I'll see you in the outro. Congratulations for making it to the end, and I hope that you picked up some valuable tips, and I also hope that I earned your thumbs up. If you run into any issue, Patching Corners have a Facebook group that you can join where myself and other developers are willing to help you. With that being said, I'll see you in the next tutorial.